And it says I am live, so I'm going to hope that is true. Welcome to everyone that's in the room. I can see a few of you are here, which means I don't need to talk to myself, which is always appreciated. Don't get me wrong, I can talk to myself with the best of them. So, all good. I hope you guys are awesome. It is Sunday. I tried doing it at noon this time, noon Eastern Standard Time, which is my time, only because I am conscious of the time zones. And I know from the meetings I do that if you schedule it around noon, you can catch the most time zones. But I don't know about you. It seemed a little early for me. Hi, Patricia. So glad you made it. Noon came up really fast. The last time, or maybe it was the first live I did, it was at Lynn Daniel. Hello, tier 3. Oh my God, I love you, Lynn. Thank you for being one of my members. I so appreciate you guys. And I have more news for the members in a second. But last time I did the live at like 2:00 in the afternoon, and it was easy peasy lemon squeezy. Like I said, this time it would have been really bad if I was late from my own live. Steve, is it Steve or Kathy? Or Kathy and accidentally Steve? I love your tag anyways, whether it's Steve or Kathy. Awesome, awesome. Hello, Hawksteed. Yay! Debbie, you're a sweetie. Hello, hello. Everyone's just coming into the room. So I'm just going to jump right in here because from experience, I know that the time seems to go by so incredibly fast. I am going to stop for a second, though, contradict myself. Is there any question you have, the people in the room right now, off the top of your head, before I say anything else? Maybe you saw a video and you were wondering, or you didn't see a video and you're wondering why. Kathy is the one typing. We use the same YouTube account, so he's kind of along for the ride. Okay, that's what I assumed from the accidentally Steve part, which I just thought was amazing. Love your sense of humor, can totally relate to it, but thank you for the clarification. I don't see any questions. If you do have a question or something comes up, please type it into chat. That is why we're here. It is the conversating, the conversing with each other, which is why I love the live so much. Nothing beats it. I mean, I love doing the videos for you guys, and I love sharing information. I love reading the comments and being able to interact with you. All of the people that have emailed me, I've had people call me, I've had elders call me, which that just will always fill my tank. So no handy dandy index card this time. I'm gonna flip it and see, there's me, old picture of me. Check out the nails, aren't they cool? I have a whole handy dandy, what is this, a clipboard. That's what it is, because I have so many things. I don't like wasting your time. So a couple things. Let's jump into that message I had for the membership. So everyone knows I'm just figuring out this YouTube thing. So the tiers of the membership have changed. Tier 3 is the beginner level, and yes, still have member perks there. Do not get me wrong. Tier 2, you move up, you have early access to videos, which I think is super cool, which means as soon as I schedule them, you can see them. That's how I schedule them, a week in advance. And then top tier, or tier 1, which is one-on-ones with me, like personal advice if you need it, discounts on products. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. Alienated Gma. Okay, your guys' YouTube names are the best. Found your channel when the Buffy thing came to light. Enjoy your energy and look forward to being part of your community. Aw, from one Gma to another. Welcome, Alienated. Here you won't be alienated. The talking Motenka. I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced. You made it. I hope you didn't inhale your breakfast too quickly. Oh, you love my channel, Lynn. Thank you so much for that. Back to what I was saying. Stay focused, Sandy. Stay focused. The frog is telling me to stay focused. You can become a member on my YouTube channel, but in case you didn't know this, like I have social media all over the place, and I have my own website, sandyboucher.com, and I've had my membership, and there's where the problem is, same word, a membership on my website too. And I'm sorry, I am not about to have people paying to be part of my membership on my website, which means they get access. Let's put it this way. All the blog posts I wrote in 2022, that is the only place they exist. They're not in paper form. They're not in book form. They're in the membership. Everything I wrote in 2023 is in the membership. My video courses are in the membership. There's other things in there too. Oh, PDF downloads. That's 6 solution things in the membership. So I have people that belong to sandyboucher.com membership. And now I have a membership on YouTube. And I thought, this is not right. So the members only videos that I'm really looking forward to, you can get them either by being a member on YouTube or being a member of sandyboucher.com. You will not have to do both. So what I'm doing, and what it means is I'm taking the members only video and I'm putting them into the sandyboucher.com membership, because those people have been supporting me for ages and I get people signing up all the time. And yes, they have email access to me. And yeah, that only seemed right. So I wanted to put that in there. The other thing, don't know if you saw if you weren't a member, you wouldn't have seen my post. You know how you can post in the community? So I've been chatting with a few of you in the community. Love that. Love it. I figured out this morning, probably should have paid more attention. I figured out that I can chat and send messages to just the membership. So what I'm going to be doing with the members is really asking what the current events are, because I realize what's going on in my world. There may be some Indigenous specific issue going on in your world. And that will be an opportunity for the members to share it with me. If I need to go research it, I will, but we'll be able to have an amazing discussion. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know my members, because you guys are amazing. Okay, how's that? Now, I put out a lot of videos. I think we could all agree. 6 a week. I don't put anything out on Sundays. But once a month, I do a live on a Sunday. So I wanted to go over the videos that went out since my last live. And I looked it up. I did my last live on November 27th. So there's, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 10, 12 videos, probably 12 that have gone out since then. So the first one on November 27th was double speak. That not showing all your cards. And you know what? I released a members only video yesterday, and I mentioned that my members only videos, I'm going to be talking about the behind the scenes stuff, the lessons I receive in my life, in my work, that then become part of what I can offer you. And it's interesting that double speak is the first video I'm referring to, because did I ever have an incident where someone I've known for a fair amount of time, not a long time, but not yesterday either, I honestly thought they were showing me all the cards, and they weren't until they did. And holy mollies. And I'm sorry, blame it on Canadian history, but the Indigenous people I know from many different nations, we've had this conversation 100 times. We just don't have the time to find out you're not who you say you are. We trust you to be who you say you are. And if it turns out you're not, that bridge is burnt. It's so disappointing when people do that. The one thing I loved, I think I love all of the people that watched my channel. So many people commented, and yes, I read the comments, not all of them. I realize some fall through, but when I get notified on my phone or in my emails, or if I'm not in seminar, then I try to stay on top of all of them. But so many people in the comments of the doublespeak video mentioned that they love bluntness, that please just be direct, be blunt. And I agree. I would rather, like, what does Brene Brown say? Honesty is kindness. Like, if you're misleading someone and you think you're being kind to them, you're not. You're absolutely not. I would rather hear something I don't want to hear and know it's honest than being misled by BS. So, what do you think, guys? Doublespeak, yay or nay? Are you into the people that only show one card at a time, or are you show me your hand and let's figure out how we can win this game together? Looking for comments in the chat. I can see there's people here. I can see. I am not talking to myself. Let me know what you think of doublespeak. That was the November 27th video. Now, the November 28th blunt I like. See, Patricia, you and I would get along well. And don't get me wrong, blunt does not mean rude. Blunt does not mean disrespectful. Blunt means, I'm just going to tell you the truth. And all of the people I work with, all of my clients, if they're going off on a tangent and they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, that is going to bite them in the butt later on. If I'm working with them back to back teaching, I got your back. I can see a threat that you can't see, and I'm going to tell you about that. To me, that's just respectful. Hi, Z, ZXY. How you doing? So glad you made it. It is awesome. Now, tell it like it is. Exactly, Debbie. Don't, like I said, don't be mean, but don't sugarcoat. Just be honest, right? Like, I'm grown ass human. And so are the people I work with. November 28th was not, yeah, I agree, Kathy. Direct is the way to go. November 28th was not a popular video, but it was an important video as far as I'm concerned. And that is because it described what you should expect from Indigenous engagement training. So all of you that have jobs working for someone, if you're the employer, if you're hiring someone to deliver employment training, Indigenous engagement training to your employees, then you need to watch that video because it's what you can and can't expect. And I really, really hope, like, nothing would make me happier than if that is the video that is shared the most, because we got to get it. So many people, here I am protecting people's butts again. So many people are spending really good money on crappy training. Like, I'm all about the takeaways. If you do training with me, you are going to have tools that you can use immediately as soon as the seminar is done. Otherwise, I have not done my job, and I always do my job. So that drives me nuts when it's not about fluff. It's not about just information. Like, I know people who have done the 7-hour history training, and then at the end, they're looking at each other. Okay, now what? Like, I mean, it's all great and wonderful to know the history, but if that doesn't change things in modern day, then nothing is changing. What's the point? Lynn, training is important. As a Black American woman whose paternal grandfather claims we are part Creek Indian, want to own this part of my heritage, but I do not know enough. The U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs hasn't helped me find my relatives. I wouldn't count on the government to help you, that's for sure, Lynn. Yeah, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with being proud of that heritage. And I love that you're investigating it, and you absolutely should. This is not going to apply to you, but the one thing I'm adamant about is no one gets to choose to be Indigenous. If you have one Indigenous ancestor 3 generations ago, you don't get to choose that part of your cultural heritage and claim you're Indigenous. And I mean, honor your Indigenous ancestry. You can share that that's part of your mosaic. Nothing wrong with that. But you don't set yourself up as a leader for Indigenous people if that's the case. And that's where the pretendians come in and where the problem is. So, Lynn, I really, really hope you do find your family. Part of me wants to say have faith. and if possible, travel back to that area. Because I know every time I go to Treaty 3, I find more family that I didn't know I had, which is what I meant. Like, and on top of that, just on a totally different find the family, Lynn, I'd be willing to bet I don't know if you live anywhere near that area, maybe you already do, but if you don't and you travel back there, you're going to feel your blood memory. That land is going to resonate with you, and I can't even describe that. You will feel that. So if at all possible, make that trip. Bonjour, SCW. I don't speak French, so sorry, SCW. That was my dad's first language, and I don't have that language. I live close enough. I drive through there when I do road trips home. Lynn, if at all possible, and if safe, of course, stop next time. Get out of your car. Don't just drive through. Don't turn music on. Just get out in some really quiet place along the highway. Pull over to the side and just breathe the air. I highly, highly suggest it. Now, November 29th's video got a whole lot of love from you guys, and I can understand why. It was one of Mom's teachings. It was the teaching about if someone is doing something that for the life of you, you can't figure out why they would do it. Instead of judging them, you ask yourself, how scared would you have to be? How frustrated, how alone, how overwhelmed, how marginalized, whatever the case may be, would you have to be for you to think that was a good idea? That's how you walk a mile in another person's moccasins. You don't judge them. You're trying to figure out why they would make that decision. And you'd be amazed how many people are making decisions. Maybe you wouldn't be amazed. Maybe you know this. I'd be willing to know bet a lot of you do, that a lot of people are running from pain. And that's why they're making the decisions they're making. And often those decisions they're making to run away from pain are actually causing them more pain. So, Lynn Daniel, it took me nearly 15 years to find a great grandmother on my dad's side, but it did happen. Keep looking, consider using resources like Ancestry DNA features. Very good advice, Hawksteed. So, like I said, you guys really seem to resonate. I did that poll of just, do you like to hear Mom's teachings? And that was definitely, I think it was like a 98% or something. So that was pretty cool. I appreciated that a lot. Excuse me. I'm going to have a drink of my juice. And no, there is nothing alcoholic in that. Just saying. November 30th. Did I tell you yet how much I love you guys? Because November 30th is my mom's birthday. And it was a rough day for me this year. She's been gone a long time. And some years it's just I can honor it. And other days, you know what I find? If I'm going through a rough patch, then Mom's birthday is hard. Because I really wish she was here for me to talk things over with. And if life is good, then I can just honor the day. And today, this year has been rough in a lot of areas. And I took the day. I took a personal day did some self-care, made a special dinner that mom would have made for us 100 times, mom and dad, when they were both here, and just really honored the day. And part of that was releasing the video that shared the eulogy that I had written for her, which turned out to be my first public speech I ever gave. And you guys loved that video so, so much. And I so appreciate that. That warmed my heart too. And no, I'm not just blowing smoke up your butt here. That made the day easier. It was like, I'm not the only one that loves her. And even though I know you didn't know her, knowing of her helped. I super appreciated that. If you guys have any questions or comments on any of these videos that I'm sharing, please type it into chat. I am watching chat, so I don't miss anything. I hear you. My mom's birthday this year was rough because it's been a rough year. I love hearing your mom's teachings, right? Like, I honestly just figured that out while we were talking. Because I was thinking in my head, like, why are some years I can just honor her day and be thankful for her, and other years is really hard. And that's it, 110%. Yes, you did, Debbie. You gave so many people sent me virtual hugs. It was absolutely awesome. You guys are amazing. And I appreciate it and I love it. And I have no doubt that my mom's in spirit world and smiling because she knows I'm well taken care of, even here on YouTube, by all you amazing people. So thank you for that. Oh, hugs. That's a cool icon, Patricia. I haven't seen that one before. That's pretty neat. December 1st, that was a Friday, correct? Yes. So that was the debunking yet another stereotype, the stereotype about Indigenous people having way too big of families. And the quote that blew me away, that creation is the opposite of genocide. And that just made my heart sing. Because, like I said, I was a single mom of a 2 and a 4-year-old, working full time, exhausted, trying to run a house and love my kids, and going on a mini vacation with them. And what I mean by that is locking the door and going for a walk with them and looking at the world through their eyes and seeing how amazing the dandelion was. And yes, that bird is pretty neat. And let's trying to skip rocks in the stream. And it was my escape from the bills and my exhaustion. And it just, I think that's why the quote resonated with me so much, that creation is the opposite of genocide, that a child's laughter can heal so, so much. So a lot of power in those little people. December 2nd was my podcast. Yeah, being one with nature, which we all are every single day. We are part, and that's another part of Anishinaabe culture that's different than mainstream. We don't think we're better than the animals. I am no more important than the squirrel or the raccoon in your backyard. That we all, and in fact, they're smarter than we are because they're not destroying the environment they need to live. And I know every now and then, because of where I live, in the summertime, people complain because the deer will get into their gardens and all those na. And I mean, my thought, and I usually share it with them, is you literally put a buffet in the deer's backyard. Like, you putting up your cute little fences is not going to mean diddly squat, right? So don't blame the deer. You moved into their territory. SC Double, as an Anishinaabe woman, I'm curious to know if you celebrate Christmas or have a special way that you and your loved ones celebrate the winter holiday season. That is an excellent question, SCW. Okay, so a couple of things. I am so going to get crucified for this, but I'm just going to be honest. So my parents were Roman Catholic, so I grew up celebrating Christmas. I stopped going to Mass a long time ago. And people can condemn me left, right, and center for that. Trigger warning here. I'm going to mention the SIDS for a second. I did mention in another video that I lost my oldest daughter to SIDS, to crib death, when she was 2 months old. I was all of a 20-year-old young mom. The Catholic Church at that time, and I am going to give them enough kudos to say things have changed, but at that time, so that would have been 1984, the Catholic Church informed me my daughter wasn't going to go to heaven because she didn't live long enough to be baptized. And I was informed that I was to have what they called a Mass of the Angels. It's a special Mass that they call, and you invite everybody you can. And if enough people prayed for her, then she could come out of purgatory and go into heaven. I was a grieving 20-year-old mom. Of course I did it. My husband at the time was not Catholic, had no idea what I was doing, but was supportive enough in the grieving process to do it. And we were informed, enough people prayed, and she got into heaven. That's when I walked away from the Catholic Church. Because I'm sorry, any church, any heaven that is not going to allow babies in is not anything I want to be part of. SCW, thank you so much for that. So then for many, many years, back to your question, for many years after that, thank you, Lynn, we celebrated, and this is where I'm going to get crucified because this is what people advocate against. We celebrated Christmas without the Christ part. So it was the commercial. We celebrated our family. We got together to share gifts and good times, and that worked for us. And especially with busy careers and schedules. And then in the last couple of years, yeah. Thanks, ZXY. In the last couple of years, ever since my daughter got married and has a family of her own and in-laws, scheduling Christmas just got insane. So what we started doing is we would have our big family dinner on December 21st, right? So the beginning of the winter season. And I would go to my daughter's house to see my grandchildren open gifts on Christmas morning, but that was about it. This year, I didn't bother putting up a tree. I'm not doing any of that. It is a chance. My family is not big into calendar holidays, which is what we call them. We don't celebrate things just because the calendar says so. I don't do Thanksgiving because for Anishinaabe, we give thanks every single day. Christmas was on whatever day the family could get together. We were celebrating the family, not Christmas. So I hope that answers your question. In the long lines, no, we don't. We celebrate our family and we try to get together and honor that another year has passed. Now it was a year in November that my children lost their father. I bit the side of my cheek and every now and then it causes me to stumble over my words. Sorry, guys. My face is still healing. They lost their father last year, and that has really changed everything as far as around the holidays. So we lost him in an accident at the end of November, so it makes it hard. Thanks, Hockstead. I totally I totally appreciate it. On December 2nd. If there's any other questions, I'm watching. That was a good question. Thanks, SCW. On December 2nd, I did the podcast, Creating Safe Spaces, and the 5 steps you need to take to create that safe space. If you haven't seen it or you're interested, go check it out. It is there waiting for you. December 4th, I really went after the stereotypes on both sides. So as an Anishinaabe, I definitely grew up with family and friends, Indigenous family and friends, who wouldn't trust a non-Indigenous person as far as they could throw them. that is as detrimental as all the stereotypes about Indigenous people. So basically, what I said in that video is go ahead and dislike the person that is a creepy person, or I'm not going to say a swear word, but you know what I mean. Someone you don't like, go ahead and don't like them. But keep it from the whole group. Every group has good people and bad people. We can't hate a whole group of people because of the 2 or 3 you've met, right? So I understand your choice. I'm a Christ believer. I do not celebrate Christmas, no tree. I give gifts to my daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter, and we spend time together. That's how we do it. Love it, Lynn. Love, love, love. And you know what? That is what I advocate for. Live your life your way. Get out of the boxes that other people have built for you. That's the advantage of turning 60 in the spring. And anyone in here, especially the women, know the older you get, the less you accept the rules and the restrictions that other people put on you. And you start asking yourself, why did I ever buy that? Right? And that is, I think, the greatest gift, because then we get to finish our life knowing we finally lived it our way. And that is not a permission to be a total big jerk, right? Because, by the way, that's not who you are. That is in reaction to everything that happened to you. So you're still putting them in power. But if you can love, like, as much as the little girl you or boy once did, and trust that much, then you finally throw away all that garbage. And you know what? I would rather love and trust and be disappointed than give them the power to change me. If you're going to be a jerk and mislead me, that's on you. You get to carry that. I'm not carrying that. But I'm not giving up who I am because of it. Here's another one of Mom's teachings. When I got married, well, I guess it was actually when I got married the second time. The first marriage had ended. My mom said, like, you make sure that new people in your life don't pay the sins of the people in your past. That you make sure the people in the past are carrying that burden, not this new person you meet, because they didn't do it. They don't deserve your, if you're going to be over jealous or over paranoid or over jealous, is jealous ever good? You know what I meant. But if you're going to be all these things and super sensitive because of what someone else did, heal first, because that new person doesn't deserve that. Don't make them pay for the sins of the person that came before them. And I thought that was pretty epic advice. And I'm a 10-year domestic abuse survivor and believe in people I meet. It has allowed me to continue enjoying my life even after the dark times because of the power of that teaching. So find better people. If you run into a jerk non-Indigenous or jerk Indigenous, no, that person is a jerk. It doesn't mean Indigenous people are a jerk or non-Indigenous. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. December 5th, I tackled the difference between culture and poverty. And there's so many people out there that think Indigenous people do this, that, and whatever because it's our culture. I was like, no, that's poverty. That's poverty. They actually think we don't want to look after our homes, that we don't take care of our homes because that's our culture. As I mentioned in the video, no, that's because a painted glass is flippin' expensive, and as ugly as it is, it's going to have to stay broken because I'd rather feed my kids, right? So thank you, ZXY. One apple doesn't spoil the whole bunch. Exactly. And that is such a good point. I'm so glad you mentioned that, Debbie, because we quote these quotes, but we don't live the words. We are all so good at pointing out, oh, that's this teaching or that's this commandment, whatever it is, but we don't walk the walk. We talk the talk without walking the walk. And we got to get better at walking the walk. Otherwise, don't talk the talk. It makes you a hypocrite. Just saying. Just saying. Then on December 6th, I took a shot at Anishinaabe and shared with you Zigadwin. Zigidwin. I did the same thing in the video. It's Zigidwin. Love. I shared the first of the grandfather teachings. And yes, next week you get another one. On December 7th, I tackled the difference between indigenous worldviews and mainstream worldviews. Obviously, generalities. There are specifics that are different between every indigenous culture, and there's generalities as well. Looking at Mother Earth as opposed to resources is super common among indigenous cultures. Those were the kind of things I centered on. Again, if you didn't see that, feel free to go check it out. Sandy, hi. What are your opinion on why so many indigenous people are fiercely defending Buffy and standing by her story, which is, it's been evident she's appropriated her identity? I actually talked about that in my video. And I don't think it's a lot of indigenous people. Maybe just be a lot of from the group, they are giving, you are asking them to give up a foundational piece in their puzzle, like the corner piece of their puzzle that Buffy it's not Buffy they don't want to give up. It's what she represented they don't want to give up. She represented this ideal that one day indigenous people could actually not only be accepted, but actually loved. Buffy was loved. And for us who deal with the racism, deal with being ostracized, deal with the judgment, it was like nirvana to see and think that that's how it's going to be one day. To ask them to stop believing Buffy, they haven't yet separated that they can still believe that and realize Buffy's a pretendian. And that's the problem. The more empowered people are the ones that are okay with separating the two and they can make the distinction. The more disempowered the person is, the more desperate they are to hang on to hope, the less likely they are to believe she's a pretendian. I hope that made sense. Denial is powerful. Denial is necessary for survival sometimes, is my point, which is why I don't want to judge these people. They are clinging to a life raft and they haven't yet realized that they're their own life raft. It takes healing to get to them. When I first heard about Buffy, I went straight into denial. I didn't realize at the time that's part of the grieving process. I went straight into denial for a totally different reason. I thought it was another attack. Like indigenous people under attack. That's called Tuesday in our world. And I got my back up. I'll admit it. I was full on ready to come out in total defense of her. Thankfully, before I hit send on anything, I started now on my social media. I have a lot of indigenous people, a lot of leaders that I consider very valuable, very authentic, very often. Yeah, that's the word. I believe in them and I value them and I look up to them. And when they started saying there's an issue, I was like, wait a minute. These are people that know what they're talking about. This isn't a reaction. So at that point, I knew I had to go watch the documentary. And honestly, why is anyone talking about this without watching the documentary? That's first and foremost. And I always forget her name. I think it's Killdeer. She's in the beginning of the Fifth Estate episode. As soon as she said that she was watching an interview of Buffy's with her family, and all of a sudden it hit her like a ton of bricks. So what Buffy was saying is the same kind of thing that pretendians say. As soon as I heard that, I did the exact same thing she did. I was like, oh no, what? So then I did what I advised my followers to do. I took Buffy out of it. Pretend we're not talking about Buffy. Let's pretend it's Tom Smith. And they found this stuff out about Tom Smith. And when I did that, I realized, yeah, her story is classic pretendian. I mean, how many people were screaming, get a Kim Tallbear? Thank you. Go get a DNA test. Like, I mean, it's not like you can't find out these things. Maybe she couldn't find things out, like saying for a second her story was true, which I don't believe it is. When she was like 30, she would have had trouble finding this stuff. But I mean, her brother writing the letters to the newspapers, that takes a lot of effort. And I'm sorry, if he abused her, that's a story you tell, not as blackmail. I mean, there was just so many things wrong with her story. I needed help from the elders I trust. Yeah. And I never looked at Buffy as an elder, thank creator. But I definitely looked at her as an example of what I could hope for. I am just so fortunate that this hit the fan when I was 59, like this year, that where I'm strong in my own power. And because that could have decimated me in my younger years. But now it's like, yeah, okay, you know what? You were fake. Thanks for the inspiration when I thought you were real. You didn't deserve me looking up to you. But I don't need you anymore because I'm good. So I need my real elders, not fakey people. I didn't want to believe it, but the proof was too overwhelming. 100%. You know what? Speaking of which, I heard a quote yesterday that just blew my mind and I think changed my life. And I'm definitely going to be using it from now on. So what the quote was is, if you can't make a decision about something, the answer is always no. The reason why you can't make the decision is because either your head or your heart already knows it's no, but the other one isn't ready to agree yet. And that's what happened with Buffy. We saw the facts. Our brain knew it to be true. Our heart didn't want to believe it. Right? But no, she's not Indigenous. So, and I mean, think of relationships. I really don't want to break up with my friend. I really liked having them around, but, and if you can't decide whether you should do it or not, you should. This relationship is a no. Your brain already knows it. Your heart hasn't figured it out yet. Amazing quote. Bijou from Treaty 9 territory. Wow. I can prep too if you don't mind sharing. I would love to know, where in Treaty 9 are you? I spend a lot of time working with Treaty 9. I'm doing work with Nan on Monday, tomorrow, in fact. Lynn, I have a wonderful colleague who is Dene Navajo. She and I had a conversation recently about Buffy. She believes Buffy is Indigenous to Canada. Yeah, she should watch the Fifth Estate video because she absolutely isn't. And I shared your channel with her. Thank you so much, Lynn. Timmins! Timmins! I know Timmins. I've spent quality time in Timmins. Way to go. Thanks for sharing. Megretch. The Talking Potanka. As a non-Indigenous person, I support the protection of Indigenous identity, but as a non-Indigenous person, my words and actions are easily misconstrued online. I agree, and that's because on this instant, this is one of those cases where non-Indigenous has to go quiet. They have to hold space for the Indigenous to grieve and work this out. It is not your opinion that is needed in this point. And that is hard for people that are used to living in a society that is centered on them. But that is what is needed. We don't need the non-Indigenous opinion in this case. In fact, non-Indigenous could learn so much if they just sat back and watched. It's the social media, I must say something mentality. That's not just social media, unfortunately. That's white privilege that says I must say something. And it's not just online. I can run into that every flipping day. Not every day, but every time I'm doing an event where someone wants to tell me their opinion on my teachings. It's like, you're not Indigenous. That doesn't even play into this. Yeah. Awesome. So we talked about different worldviews on December 7th. On December 8th, I just sent out the huge thank you to everyone who has found my channel, thanks to Buffy. So here's what it reminded me of, and this may catch you off guard. But it's something I observe a lot. People ask where I get my confidence and my wisdom from. I was taught to observe and to ask myself, what is the lesson here? Years ago, I realized, are you ready for this? One little quote that might blow your world. There's no racism at an AA meeting. There is no racism at an AA meeting. That when the threat, the immediate threat, which is the addiction in this case, is bigger, you forget about things like racism and sexism. I think that's what happened with Buffy. And I think that's why so many people found and enjoy my channel, because grief is bigger than racism. Grief is bigger than cross-cultural conflicts. We united in our grief and our frustration and our anger. And that is not a bad thing. So, because you think about it, if this is a horrible analogy, I've used it before in seminar, but it's still a horrible analogy. If the world was to blow up and all that was left is where you live, and by the way, all your family was visiting, so you don't need to worry, they're there and they're fine. And you had to start figuring out how you were going to survive as a community. You would come together or you would die. And you're going to come together and forget about those other lines that used to divide. So there are forces that can unite us. I just pray to Creator that we can unite before that level of stuff happens, right? That we can get it together quicker than that. So December 8th was my thank you. And the last one, December 9th, was another podcast where I shared the 6 solutions to overcoming internalized oppression. And that was, I stressed it in the video, this is not stuff non-Indigenous people do. Non-Indigenous people have to create the space for Indigenous people to do this. The person suffering from the internalized oppression has to take those 6 steps. Someone else doing it for us is not empowering. Can we put that on billboards everywhere? Someone saving it or doing things for us is not empowering. All those moms out there doing everything for their adult children, you are weakening your adult children. Give them the skills to go on without you. They need skills. The dependence is for your sake, not theirs, because you don't want to let them grow up. That's something you got to unpack. That one was so amazing, and thank you for the PDF. You are most welcome. That's another thing that's going to happen in the members area. I figured out I can share images and PDFs in there, so I'll be able to share that with the members. Now, I did promise that I would do, you only got about 10 minutes late, 10 minutes left. There's 2 more things I want to touch on. Really quick sneak peek of what's coming up this week. The members already know some of this because they have access to if they're tier 2 or higher, they have access to these videos already. So tomorrow's video is another versus, and it's echo chambers versus safe spaces. I've had a few people in the thread accuse my channel of being an echo chamber, so I decided to take that on. On Tuesday, December 12th, I'm talking about why I believe the word Indigenous is dangerous. So that's going to be important. I did promise you that another one of the 7 grandfather teachings is coming up this week. On Wednesday, we're going to talk about Debwaywen, which is truth. Debbie, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. Yes, we're going to talk about that in a sec, Deb. Dave Barker, welcome to tier 3. Thank you so much, Dave. Love, love, love. On December 14th, I'm going to do another 2 sides thing. And this is the difference between, someone asked me this in a thread, and I was like, that's a video. The difference between internalized oppression that I talk about a lot and imposter syndrome. So I'm going to talk about that. On December 15th, which is the Friday, correct? Yes. Two little words that can change any relationship you have, any engagement, whether it's with your child, your adult parent, your partner, your coworker, whatever. Two little words that'll change everything. Trust me, it works. And then next week's podcast, in my book, The Path, which is right there, it is an action plan to get us to reconciliation. But because I didn't want the book to be this thick, there are 10 accepted truths that I put at the beginning of the book, that these are the 10 things we're going to agree on before we move forward. In next week's podcast, I share those 10 things. I'd like a copy of the 6 Teachings HAP PDF. Can't find it online. It's not online. If you send me an email, so sandy@sandyboucher.com, I'll happily send it to you, Lynn. I'll also try to figure out how to put it in the membership because I know I saw it earlier. The last thing I wanted to touch on is it happening every day now? No, I don't think so. But then some days it happens like 7 times. I am still removing some comments from my YouTube channel, from the video threads. I will do that to the end of time. That is me defending a safe space. But I wanted to be crystal clear on the reasons why I remove a comment. So the first one, if it's what I call hateful speech, because I don't want to get into the legal definition of hate speech, but if it's racist, sexist, against any group, if you're coming out to defend Indigenous by attacking another group, including non-Indigenous, if you're attacking white people, any attack at all is going to get that comment removed. Sorry, that kind of stuff is not staying on my page. There have been incidents of lateral violence, which is another Indigenous person attacking my voice. That's lateral violence. We can talk about more of that in the future. That's that, tall poppy syndrome. I want to pull that person down. That's not allowed either. I'm not better than any other, but I'm not here to be a target. So that's not happening. Of course, trolls coming out and just saying ridiculous things, those get removed. But the last one is the one I think that might surprise people. And it's called diluting the topic. My page is Indigenous centered, more specifically, Canadian First Nation centered. I do not speak for Métis. I do not speak for Inuit. I am not part of those cultures. I have no business speaking for them. That is not my lived experience. But when someone comments, oh, it's the same in this group, oh, it's the same in that group, that's what diluting is. If we have to keep it focused on Indigenous, Canadian, First Nation centered, because there are so few groups that are. There are so few places in Canada that are Indigenous, First Nation, Canadian centered. So as much as I love, you know what, if you want to share that it reminds you of something else, a quote from another person, another culture's teaching, send me an email. I would love to hear it. I'm not going to leave it on the thread because that's what happened with All Lives Matter. Yeah, of course, all lives matter. That's not the freaking point. The point was no one was acting like Black Lives Matter. And in Canada, people love to say Indigenous lives matter, but, we're dying at a rate higher, ridiculously higher than everyone else, and for a multitude of reasons. And when someone kills us that is non-Indigenous, they get 2 weeks in jail, or so it seems. Yes, I'm being exaggerating it, but they get very short sentences. And it sends the message out wide and clear that Canada really does not yet value Indigenous lives or Indigenous voices or Indigenous teachings. Here on this page, they are valued. You can ask your questions, but to divert it to something else is not appreciated. So stay here and learn and listen and ask respectful questions, and I have all the time in the world for you. But diverting to I had several people referring to Indigenous people from other cultures and other parts of the world. Amazing, interesting, not the topic of conversation. In the same way, when you're discussing something important, especially when emotions get heated, it is really important to stay on the topic. And a lot of people get uncomfortable discussing Indigenous teachings or Indigenous knowledge, or they want to reassure themselves that they know something, so they bring in other information, never realizing they're diluting the message. In the same way, you wouldn't walk into a Catholic mass and start doing I don't even know if this applies, I'm just pulling a thought on my head here, but you wouldn't start doing a Buddhist ceremony in the middle of a Catholic mass. You would understand, and I'm not saying that this channel is the equivalent of a mass, but it is a Canadian First Nation Indigenous centered space. And I work really hard to defend and create those spaces so that other Indigenous people can come in and say, what do you do? How do you feel about this? I know what this feels like. We are just starting to find each other. And yes, there's some of us that haven't healed enough that they find me and they just want to attack. I'm not going to hate them for it. I know that just means they haven't had the opportunity to heal yet, but I'm not going to allow that to stay in the thread either. So if you see a comment and poof, suddenly it seems like it's gone, ask yourself if it was one of those things. You can always send me an email, like I said, if you want to share something. And I've had the most heartwarming emails from some. I'm not going to call them out because they emailed me, which is private. But just some Indigenous people really, don't want to say responding positively to my channel, but experiencing a positive result because of my channel. That's what I want to go, because it's not about my channel. It's about the reassurance they felt, or the comfort they felt, or the I'm not alone they felt. And that is exactly what I'm trying to accomplish. Now, this is open to everyone. I'm not being exclusionary. Like, feel free, come on in, sit at our fire, sit at my kitchen table. You are always welcome to learn. You're not welcome to take it over or to divert it to someplace else. So I hope that made sense. Oh, bye, Patricia. Sorry, you're probably already gone now. I didn't see that very quickly. I love how warm and welcoming this channel is. Thank you. That is my hashtag is I create safe spaces. I don't ever want anyone to feel alienated, but I won't let anyone alienate me in my own space either. Makes perfect sense. Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate that. So, as I said, we've got like 2 minutes left in this live. Is there any other comments or questions? Is there a topic? I know what. I got to write it on an index card. A few people have mentioned, I know it's on an index card, the cutting of Indigenous hair, where there was cases in different places of students getting their hair cut by school administrators, and just focusing on why that is so horrific, and just adding some context to it. So that's definitely a video I'm going to be doing in the future. Was there anything else off the top of your head that you saw on the news or heard in conversation and you'd love more clarity on? Yes, I will definitely be covering that. I'm 99% positive it's already on one of my index cards. I have a whole bunch of index cards for you guys. My husband is a residential school survivor, and through him and now you, I'm so glad to keep learning. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your experiences and wisdom. I'm here to listen and learn. I learned so much from each video. Thank you. I'm adding puzzle pieces to your puzzle. My mom would be so proud. So on that note, I'm going to let you go. This will be available on the channel. So if someone who couldn't make it or wanted to, you can share it with them. And it wouldn't go well for your channel, Sandy. Thank you so much. And you have great hair, by the way. Well, thank you. I have a ton of hair. As a secondary educator in the U.S., I look forward to learning more of this. Oh, Lynn, that's amazing. You all do me a favor. take care of yourselves. That is the best way to build your confidence and your wisdom. Teach other people how to treat you by treating yourself with love and respect. Until next time, I love you. Take care. Bye-bye.